Brace yourselves for another annoying round of me going into a backstory you probably don't care about. I have wanted DX9's Cocomone for a while. Never ended up getting her. And then, of course, once I was like, oh, I definitely need to track this figure down, it became a huge pain in the butt. It's not available anywhere else. In the rare occasion that she popped up on eBay, it was for ridiculous amounts of money. And it was just kind of like, well, I guess I'm never getting this figure. Or more realistically, that I have to be patient and get this figure. And several years later, clearly that finally happened. I finally managed to find an eBay listing for this figure that was not too absurd. So yeah, I got DX9 Cocomone, aka the only third-party version of GoBot's Crasher, I think. So yeah, I have this now, and I am happy. This is a neat figure that has some problems. It's, you know, it shows its age because it is several years old, but this is cool, and honestly, I like this better than the, oh, what was it? The Allspark Power Fracture figure that we got. I mean, I don't think that figure's bad, but it has some kind of obnoxious articulation limitations, and the front of the car becoming a weapon was kind of eh, but this I'm into. Also, yes, I do absolutely plan to hopefully track down Velocitron Fracture when she comes out, but right now we're talking about Cocomone, and yes, I have Cocomone, and I'm so happy to finally have Cocomone. In case you're not familiar with it, this is a repaint of DX9's Invisible, which is their take on Mirage. And Invisible you can find everywhere. Not so much this thing. But I really like this, and as you can see, you can store the gun in the car mode. It's basically what happens is you fold the seat forward and the clip or whatever of the gun kind of slots into this hole here, and that allows it to stay relatively solidly in vehicle mode. As you saw, it doesn't fall out, so that's how you can store that in vehicle mode, and I kind of wish that this could store underneath the car, but hey, whatever. So with the gun out of the way, we're going to fold this back, and there we've got the proper seat. And there we've got the proper DX9 Cocomone. And she is Crasher from the GoBots. It's the right colors with the black and red with a little bit of white here and there. I mean, the distribution is kind of up for debate. But from what I remember from the original toy, the red vents along the side here are absolutely spot on. Obviously, the shape of the car is wrong. Crasher was not a Formula 1 car, but everyone seems to remold Mirage into Crasher, so she's gonna be a Formula 1 car in that regard. Yeah, this looks cool. The person that I bought this from did apply some of the stickers that this figure comes with, like here on the front, and then the Cocomone on the side, the decals here, the decals here. There were also the little kissy lip stickers on the sides here, but I removed those because I just wasn't a fan. I have not decided if I want to get the repro label set for this figure yet or not, because it kind of looks a little bit too busy for my taste, but my opinion on that could change. You know, I may end up getting the sticker set anyway. I've done it before, so don't hold me to that, but for right now I'm content with how the figure looks in vehicle mode, and it's, you know, it's a Formula 1 car. They do a better job of hiding the robot head, which you can see the back of right there, in vehicle mode than DX9's Giuliano, so there is that. And overall, I just think this looks pretty cool. It is a little bit weird that the engine is white and red rather than being like real engine colors, but I think that has more to do with the robot mode deco than anything. She has, I don't know if these are rubber or just rubberized, but she has pretty grippy tires that allow her to roll pretty well. Though the car does do this kind of annoying thing where the back wheels are really jiggly, which is just part of the design. From what I've seen, this is also something with Invisible. It's just kind of a problem that they all have, which is kind of a shame. I wish they kind of locked in place better, but hey, whatever. Oh, this is off center. There we go. So yeah, I don't really know what else I can say about the vehicle mode. I think it looks good. There's a decent amount of paint spread around the thing. Like, most of this is black plastic or off-white plastic, so like the red, silver, all that stuff is generally paint. The rear wheels are distinctly different from the front wheels in terms of like the rims, both both for the overall design and the color. It doesn't really bother me, but it's a thing. And yeah, that's really all I can say about this vehicle mode. So let's just truck right along and do our size comparisons so that we can move on to that robot mode, which is the real reason why I got this thing. I swear, every time I cannot line this up ahead of time. I'm always off. But anyway, here is Cocomone with various mainline figure classes, and vehicle-wise, I feel like she's, I want to say, roughly Voyager size. Like, if you look at the wheelbase, at least, in terms of the density of, like, the center mass of the vehicle, it's about deluxe size, but I feel like, realistically, probably be safe to refer to Cocomone as a Voyager. Maybe a small Voyager. I don't know. Or maybe she works as a masterpiece. I don't know. I feel like the car does kind of work at masterpiece scale. I don't know. I think aesthetics-wise, maybe not masterpiece, but size-wise, yeah, I think maybe she's in that general kind of fuzzy category. So yeah, I guess we could put Cocomone in the mushy scale of masterpiece. I don't know. I'm not a big scale guy, so you all have to tell me. Alright, transformation time, and before I get into it, I should admit that I actually did a little bit of customizing on Cocomone, because Cocomone's supposed to represent Crashers, so yeah, once I got the figure in hand, this is what she looked like. And that's fine, I have no problem with that, but Crasher has so much more personality in terms of her animation model face that I wanted to bring some of that into this toy, so when I get her into robot mode, you'll see what I did. But we need to get there first. So to start, I'm going to take this bit here and pull this up. That tabs in back here. So pull that up. And then can undo this section here, and the legs will hinge out. Just hinge all those out like that. And now this assembly back here is pegged in here. Can unpeg that, swing all this forward, and that will tab into place up in here. Just tab that into place, and then split this, and that will just straighten out and create a pelvis, I guess. Split the legs. I'm going to take these panels on the inside here and pop them out. It can be a little tricky, but pop them out, rotate them around, and they will peg in the back and close up the backs of the legs. Same thing on this side. Around, peg that in. Okay. Now, what the directions want you to do is rotate this up, and they actually want you to rotate this in and put that in place, and then push this wheel in, and it kind of rests up against the back and fills in the back leg, which it looks okay, but it has problems. So let me push this in. This actually clicks. So you gotta push that in, and it'll click. But it doesn't actually click in place when you're going in like this. It just kind of sits. I'm not a fan of that. But when going to vehicle mode, you want to pull this out all the way until it clicks into place. But yeah, you want to rotate this in so that it sits behind that panel, and then close the panel up. And it's a little, there we go. And by rotating it in like that, you clean up the leg, but the problem is, and also fold that back. The problem is you get no heel doing it like that. Like the figure just will rock back very easily. So I do the thing that everyone on TFW does, where instead of rotating this up, you rotate it back out a bit. And the wheel will kind of press up against this bit right here. This little, it's hard to show in this light, but this little bit right here, it'll push up against that, which will keep it from being able to spin. And it'll act as a much sturdier heel for the figure. So that's what I do with that. Also for this leg, gonna push up the toe, and then rotate this back, and tilt this just to get out of the way, push this in, and once that's pushed in, just push this back down until it kind of rests against that panel, and that will keep it from flopping around. And that results in much better heals. Like, as you can see, she's standing just fine. I'm not like worried about her falling over. If those were up, she would absolutely topple over. So after doing that, want to get the arms done, and now these bits actually peg into this section down here. So you want to lift up first to unpeg them. And with them unpegged, you can start to swing them out. Pull this out, and I find it's easiest to kind of swing it down a bit so that you can rotate it out, just to give you a little more space. Then bring this in to give you clearance to hinge this out more. And then can straighten this out, and around the back, can flip out the fist. It's just on a ball joint, so it just flips out, and there we go. That is an arm done. Same thing on this side. You want to untab it, and you can see the tab, and where is it? There's the slot on the arm that it tabs into. So untab it, and now we've got the room, we can just swing this down easier. Rotate it around, bring out the fist, and then pull this out and then rotate it just to give us clearance, so that now we've got arms. And now I want to take these bits on the inside here, and these come down in like a double hinge. So you want to hinge it down, but also rotate it out so that it can slide through that gap. Then rotate it back around, and this one's really floppy. It's not a huge problem for when we get to the robot mode, but yeah, that's how it is on mine. And bring this down. Bring it down. Come on. There we go. Definitely not floppy on this side. Hinge that and squeak it through, and there we go. Now, I want to bring these sections down. These little struts actually tab into the side here. You can see the little section that tabs in there. So do that. Swing this down, and this section will also fold up and just kind of rest along the back there. And then bring the arm down, like so. I might as well do it here initially, just rotate that around. There we go. So unpeg this, fold it in, rotate this around, and there we go. Now, I'm going to push on this, because that's the seat. So I'm going to push that so that the seat folds up, and fold the seat up and around, and just tuck it up against the back. Also, don't want to forget, I want to rotate the waist. Get these out of the way. Rotate the waist 180 degrees, and now I can bring these back down, like so. Almost done. Last bit, you want to take the little mustache. I know it's not a mustache. Fold it together, and this is on a little hinge to help with the transformation, because what you want to do is you want to bring this down, and this will feed through this hole in the back. So you want to bring it down and angle this so that it can angle up and through that hole. And once it goes through, it'll just kind of feed through, and then you can push this in the rest of the way. Want to get the little side things kind of out of the way too. That will allow you to bring this in all the way. Those will stay out of the way. There we go. And then the side bits should just kind of naturally tuck in around the midsection. And now you can leave this as is. I find it's actually better to bring these bits back out a little bit, because as I'm handling the figure, I'm usually grabbing right around here, and when these are together, it's really easy to push on this and accidentally push that midsection back out. So with these opened up, it kind of prevents you from being able to easily push that back through. And then bring the arms down, and there we have DX9's Cocomone, aka GoBot's Crasher, in her robot mode. And this is a neat robot that definitely looks the part. You can also tell where the Mirage came from. And in terms of the paint detailing that I did, you should probably be able to tell almost immediately what I did. There we go. There is Cocomone, aka Crasher, and I really like this. I'm glad I finally got this figure. She definitely has some liberties are being taken here compared to the original GoBot animation model, but that's kind of to be expected, especially because she's being made from the Mirage mold, or DX9's version of Mirage. But she's cool. It's a cool toy, a cool robot, cool figure. The only gripe I really have are those heels. I really wish that you didn't have to fan mode proper heels on this thing. But that's the problem with the mold, not the fact that it's a Crasher repaint. But again, the colors do a lot to really sell this as Crasher. I believe the head is about the same as what they used for Invisible or Mirage. So with this mold, pretty much the only thing making it Crasher is the paint job. But it works. It's a lot of black with some white that kind of, well, with a decent amount of white, but that white kind of could stand in for like a silver or something like that. But you do get the red, and then of course you've got the pink face and the yellow eyes, which definitely is Crasher. And the robot mode ends up being pretty darn clean. Really all you've got is the little bit on the back and like the wheels up there, but like for Mirage, that's kind of normal. And since she's derived from Mirage, that's, I feel like that's fine. And yeah, this is just cool. There's a lot of nice paint separation. Could use a little more, but there's a surprising amount here. Like, in addition to what we get on the legs, which we already saw, there is actually gray paint being used on the thigh detail right in there, which is cool. Would have been nice if they used it in some of the other areas as well, like here and here and maybe back here, but the fact that it's there is cool. You got the red and yellow in the pelvis, then you've got the red and gray on the sides, the red in the torso, and like those vents, again, that's very Crasher, so that's a nice detail. And then also some red in the forearms, and then some gray and red in the shoulders, so there is a decent amount of paint. Oh, and the yellow in the chest. So there is a decent amount of paint. It's just, not entirely accurate to Crasher, but I feel like this is Crasher as a Formula 1 car, which works for me. Now, I should probably talk about that head, because that's where I did my work. So yeah, the head for Cocomone, as she comes out of the box, it's just pink face with yellow eyes and the black trim, and like that's it. Which is fine. It still kind of looks the part of Crasher, but I really wanted to make this more Crasher-esque. So I ended up painting the lips and dotting the eyes. And I think that makes a massive difference in how the figure looks. I love that. It adds so much more personality. Because before, it looked fine, but it looked like Crasher, but was missing some of that edge that I kind of wanted to see. So, yeah, those eyes were a pain, let me tell you. That took me 3 tries, using a magnifying glass and the tiniest brush I own, to just go in and try and very carefully dot a little bit of black paint for the pupils. And the first time I did it, I put them too low, so it looked like she was constantly looking down. The second time I did it, I kept going in and trying to touch them up until they got really big and lopsided. And then the third time, they looked close enough to me. Like, when I look at her from a distance, sometimes it looks like it's fine, and other times it looks like she's cross-eyed. I think it just depends on the angle. But I'm fine with this. I'm leaving it like this. So yeah, that's the eyes. That was a pain, but I really think it makes that face pop so much more. In addition to that is the lips, which originally I was going to paint them red, but then I was kind of like, well, red isn't right. I looked at the animation model and her lips are just a darker pink than her face. Unfortunately, the default pink that I have is actually a darker shade than what they put on her face. So all I did was use the regular enamel Testors pink model paint that I have, went over the mouth, and then just very carefully went over the mouth, and then very carefully went in with a tiny brush to clean up the edges. And that just works so good. I feel like anyone who gets this figure, if you really want it to look like Crasher, you definitely need to paint the mouth, and if you can, put those pupils in, because that makes a heck of a difference in terms of just getting that character across in the face. As for posability, the head is on a ball joint, so you can get up and down. Well, actually, that's the panel that it's on, not the ball joint itself that's moving, but you get some good up and down, but you also get pretty decent amount of left and right tilt, and you can, of course, turn the head around. It's a little bit tricky to manipulate the head because of this bit back here, but it is doable. So you can do that. The arms are on a rotational joint that can do a full 360, but then this bit kind of gets in the way, but you can move it up and out of the way if you need, or down and out of the way if you need to. So you can rotate the arms all the way around. They can go out on this hinge, or they can go out on this hinge. They do kind of knock into each other, the hinges, but if you use them both properly, you can get the arm out a pretty decent amount. Also, just the 90 degrees, of course. There is a bicep swivel, which is up here, and it's a little bit tricky to use just because of the geometry here, but it is doable. If you have the arm straight, you're going to have a hard time because that tab back there might get hung up on some of the stuff up here. So you want to have that elbow bent a little bit when you rotate the bicep, at least. And the elbows are double jointed because of the transformations, so you can bend that elbow all the way up, which is great. I tend to prefer to use the lower joint when I'm bending the elbow, but you have the option to use both. The wrist is, as you can see, on a ball joint. Astrid, I'm talking. And because it's on a ball joint, you can hinge it down and stuff. It actually does kind of softly settle into place, so you don't have to worry about accidentally bumping the hand down like this, but it is something to be aware of, I guess. Astrid, I will feed you in 24 minutes. But because it's a ball joint, you get a wrist swivel. Because of the way it's seated, you don't really get any forward and backward wiggle. It's just the rotation and that up and down movement. And then the fingers are all 4 fingers are pinned on a single pin. So you can open up the hands. As you saw during the transformation, there is a waist swivel. It's if you go too far with it, it looks weird because of the way that things are offset for the transformation, but you can get a pretty decent amount of tilt of rotation on it before it starts to look ridiculous. The hips can go forward this bit kind of moves up and out of the way a little bit, so you can move the hips forward, not quite 90, though if you fold this bit out of the way, you can go up way further than that. So you can at least kind of get the pelvic skirt out of the way. They can go back, well, if you keep the legs straight, they only go back that far because of this piece, but if you bring them out, you can go back a lot further, but you do have to go out. And speaking of out, they can go out way past 90. You get a thigh rotation, which depending on where you have the thigh located is either limited or free-flowing. Because of this bit on the back, it'll just crash into the stuff back here. You also get a double jointed knee, so you can bend the top joint that far, and then the lower joint can go a little bit further, though it does, as you saw, it pops that little door open, so you can't really go past this point with the lower joint. But that's still a pretty darn deep knee bend, and if you really wanted to, you could bend it forward too. The foot does not move forward and backward, but you can move the toe forward and backward, though because of where it hinges, it does look a little weird. And she does have ankle tilts. There's a dedicated spot here that you can use to tilt the, it just tilts the toe section, but you can tilt it left and right, so that gives you a little bit more dynamicness to the standing and posing and whatnot. And her gun is this. I believe this is just Invisible / Mirage's gun. And it looks fine. It's got some nice detailing to it. It's suitably bulbousy and sci-fi-y at the ends. She's a GoBot, so this is kind of silly because she just points her fists at something and shoots lasers, but you can slide the gun into her hand and close the fingers around it, and now she's holding her gun. And it looks cool, don't get me wrong. It's just, GoBots don't really use traditional firearms. At least I don't think they do. It's been a long time since I've seen the show. Anyway, let's bring things down and in a bit so we can talk about how tall she is now that she is a robot. Astrid, 20 minutes. Here she is with some various mainline classifications, and I would say it's pretty spot on for what counts as a modern Voyager in terms of height these days. Going by head height, she's basically as tall as Artfire, so I think it's safe to say she's basically the same height, roughly speaking, as a modern Voyager, and the heights in all of these fluctuate wildly depending on the figure, so there's some wiggle room there. As for how she stacks up with Masterpiece, well, here you go. She is, I want to say she's pretty much Masterpiece Carbot height. Maybe a tiny bit shorter, but right about that size. Which I feel like this is great for Mirage, but this isn't Mirage, so yeah, I mean, if you want to put her with your Transformers, and specifically with like your Masterpiece stuff, I feel like the scale works. Unfortunately, I no longer have the Action Toys mostly Masterpiece-ish scale Psykill that they did. I should have kept that figure, it was really good. But yeah, I don't have that figure anymore to do comparisons with, unfortunately. I feel like they would probably look pretty cool together. Their aesthetics, not exactly the same, because the Action Toys Psykill was much more cartoony. This is not particularly cartoony because of all the additional sculpting, and of course the fact that she's a Formula One car and not the whatever kind of supercar she was in the original cartoon, but still very cool. And that does it for DX9 Cocomone / GoBots Crasher. As I said, I'm extremely glad I finally got my hands on this figure because she's really cool. The transformation is pretty interesting in what it does. You got some pretty decent expressiveness with the posability. It does take a little bit of fiddling to figure out what the best ways are to get her pose, just because of like those heels and stuff. Like, you definitely need to do the fan moding for the heels, otherwise this figure is not going to stand easily. But the articulation, I feel like, is adequate for, you know, especially for like a Masterpiece style third party. I feel like it's totally fine. Some of the design elements feel a little outdated, particularly the, you know, heels, as I said, but this is a cool figure. And I'm not saying this to try and toot my own horn, I just feel like with the added paint apps on the face, this is a great figure of Crasher. And I'm saying that not to be like, oh, look at how great I am, because really what I did wasn't that difficult. It's just to say that, like, if you get this figure, a little bit of paint on the face turns it into a really good Crasher. So if you want one for yourself, I'd say just keep an eye out, look around, try and wait to see if you can find one for a decent price, by which I mean under $100, because I've seen people trying to charge like $150 to $200 for this, and no. But anyway, that is going to do it for DX9 Cocomone / Crasher. What do you all think of this figure? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you everybody for watching, and remember, it's all toys, so let's have fun.